Hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Karen Kennedy, and I'm owner of Real Food Matters. And today we are going to talk to one of my best friends, Amy Timms. She's my VA, but she's also one of my oldest friends. And we're going to be talking about her experience doing my Hack Your Blood Sugar with using a CGM, which she did back in November. And so this interview series is a metabolic health series, and I'm really excited to be bringing you both some people who I've worked with who have had success using a CGM and improving their metabolism, preventing chronic health issues or reversing them, but also some experts in the field. So without further ado, let's bring Amy on. Hey, hi, Amy.
All right, can you hear me okay?
All right. So,
oh, I can't hear. Hold on a second.
Huh?
My settings. I can't hear.
You can't hear?
All right, you gotta love this. Default.
Amy and I are working on this new
AirPods.
platform too. This is the reason why she's on
There
here.
we go. Now I can hear you.
You
Sorry
can hear
about
me?
that. Yeah,
That's okay.
technology. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Good. Good. Yeah, I know. So we wanted to start this interview series, and of course now I'm having like my earbuds are all tangled. So we're using a new platform using StreamYard, new to us.
Yeah,
and that's why I thought, why don't we just do an interview first, Amy and I, and then we can work out the kinks in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Amy and I, let's see, Amy and I, we like Amy. If I say how long Amy and I have known each other, you'll know exactly how old we are because we grew up next to each other. Our moms are friends and are still friends. And so we have been friends our whole lives. And because of that, Amy has a strong background in marketing and HR. And so when she decided to start her own business, being a virtual assistant, I was like, oh, please help me in my business. So if you're following me, if you're on any of my platforms, you'll see Amy Timms, and this is Amy. So I always rope Amy into trying things out with me. So she's my partner in crime. Besides just managing me, she tries things out. And last year, I said, if you're going to help me out with doing all these CGM programs, Mike, you have to try using a CGM. We've got to get you one. And it's funny because Amy's like, I don't want to. I don't want to know.
No, I didn't. Not at all.
Which is so
not
common.
At all.
Yeah. So why didn't you want to know? What was it about that was off-putting?
Well, partially because I knew I was eating like crap. Not all the time. I'm just so everybody knows I'm gluten-free. So I typically, just because of my food choices, I'm typically low carb. But I think just when I started staying home last summer, after working for a real estate company for 4 years, I started eating a lot of candy. And so I'm pretty sure I had recently gone to the doctor. My cholesterol numbers were higher. My weight was higher. All things that you really don't want to share with your best friend so intimately, but I knew
Boundaries.
I knew that though she had a really valid point. When I started working for her, I needed to understand her programs. And I've done other of her programs, and she's obviously consulted with me in the past. So I thought this is probably a good idea to do it. So I just went ahead and said, okay, I'll do it. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because a lot of people who do this program are also friends or acquaintances of mine, and it's a big step to have me, also in your business in this way.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You also had some of those health things going on because you're a generally healthy person.
Yes, but I will say menopause has not been easy. Because Karen knows we moved. So my husband was in the Air Force, and we moved around. And when we moved to the South here in North Carolina, where I'm used to hot being from Spokane, but I'm not used to steamy hot. So throw in steamy hot and hot flashes, and it's not a lot of fun. And so I just have kind of, ever since I hit menopause, have really been fluctuated a lot with my weight and my health and my motivation. And I feel like now that I've got my blood sugar under control and I know, and I'm eating with what works for me, I still have some of those menopause things, but they're not bad. And I feel like I'm in better control of them. So I really like that.
Right. So on that, what were your numbers? What was it like in the first week? So you said, I don't even want to know. So what was it like? What was surprising to you?
I think the one thing that really surprised me, I had actually just started at the gym and was walking, and then noticed I was having like these episodes of low blood sugar, shaky legs, not feeling really good, just during a walk. So I was like, so I was kind of like, huh. And so I looked at my numbers, and through Karen's deduction, we figured out plain old milk in my coffee was causing my blood sugar to spike really high while I was working out and then take a big drop. And that I think during the first week was the most surprising thing. Like, really? And it's not a lot of milk. It's like I had been backing off. It was like maybe a quarter of a cup of milk, not a ton, but it was enough that just sent my blood sugar going crazy.
Right. And I remember then, and I think every group I've had, that's usually, I think week 1 now I reserve for what are you putting in your coffee? Because that across the board, we found that was spiking everybody's blood sugar, even half and half.
Yeah, I remember that, even the half and half. So now I have whole cream, which, remember, I'm a child of the 80s. Well, I graduated high school in the 80s and 90s, where, low-fat food was really awesome. I've actually been a huge fan of Weight Watchers for a long time. That really helped me through the years kind of keep my weight in control. But again, when I hit menopause, it just wasn't working anymore. And so I've learned that it's you got to add that fat in, which you don't want to do because it's still stuck in the back of your head, but you want to add that fat in, and it makes a huge difference in your blood sugar numbers.
Yeah.
At least for me, it did. Everybody's different, but for me, it did.
Yeah. Should we show your blood sugar numbers?
Sure. So my favorite weekend. This is called the hot mess weekend, is what I call this one.
Okay, so I'm going to share. So some of you might be interested, especially those of you who are providers, what it looks like when you're viewing your blood sugar data, especially. So when we do this course, the Hack Your Blood Sugar with CGM, it includes like over a 4-week period, we've got like 8 to 10 live Zoom calls. And so we can share your data right on the screen and troubleshoot. All right. Can you see that all right?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah. So what I'm sharing, this is a program, a free program. So those of you who are providers listening to this, one of the programs that we can use is called Libre View. And this is free. And actually, even if you're not a provider, you can get an account with this and get this view for yourself using your Freestyle Libre CGM. And so I'll show you just a little bit about what you're looking at. If you're like, this is gobbledygook, I don't even know what this is. So this, you can see here, there's 3 days in a row. This is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and this is football weekend, I think. Mm-hmm. So what this is, this x-axis, horizontal, this is time, starting at midnight on Friday, and then going all the way 6 a.m., noon, 6 o'clock, p.m., midnight. And this range here, these are your glucose levels. And you see this gray band. This gray band is I call this the Goldilocks zone, the range. And so for people who have diabetes, we call this, when you say time in range, I'm trying to get 100% time in range. This is what that range is. And when I work with people, I set the range from 70 to 140 mg per deciliter. And that's a little tighter. That's a little tighter than what's usually done. But as you'll see, it's doable. It's doable. And if you actually want to make improvements, this is the range to work with. So you can see Amy's first time. It's not terrible because she's mostly in range, but this is what she's talking about when we talk about a hot mess. So what you can see is, overnight, this is overnight from midnight to 6, things are pretty low. she's dipping down a bit low here, but this kind of an artifact of the reader. And then, her breakfast is, up and down, up and down. It's starting to look like a heart rate monitor. It's starting to look like an EKG. And we don't want the EKG look.
No.
But look, down here on Saturday, I think this is probably game day.
Mm-hmm. It was.
She's getting out of range with her blood sugar. So you see, it's not bad. And these are coffee spikes, I think, here.
I think so too.
And that's what she first had going. So what, as we started working with that, what are the things you changed? What are the big things that you changed?
Right. One of the things I talked about was my coffee in the morning. So I put that in my coffee. One of the big things I started doing was I stopped eating after like 7 o'clock at night. I try to not eat 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed at night. And that kept my blood sugar from being high at night. And when I started doing that, I noticed that I started sleeping better. So that's one of the main things. And then the other really cool thing that happens when you stop eating so close to bedtime, you don't get heartburn at night. And so that has helped me, and it's actually helped my husband Drew too, because we both were getting heartburn at night. We were both snacking, 9 o'clock, whatever, go to bed at 10. And then, so that stop snacking, I think obviously helped with the blood sugar, but helped with heartburn. So that was a very nice surprise, and I don't even think I realized what was going on until I think someone in one of our group programs said, Karen, my heartburn's gone away. I'm like, oh, you know what, mine has too. So that was good. I mean, so I was like, you're right. And I noticed, Drew would make up in the middle of the night with heartburn sometimes. And neither him or I do that anymore. So it's really, that's been kind of cool. Yeah. So, sorry, one of my cats just disappeared into one of my cabinets. Like they open them up and they walk in, and now they're fighting between the cabinets. So that's awesome.
I love Angie's cats. So tell me about Drew, because Drew sort of vicariously went through this journey with you.
He did. So he, because I'm on the East Coast, a lot of Karen's calls, if they were in the afternoons or whatever, they would be while we were cooking or eating dinner. And so I'd have it on speaker and mute while I was cooking, and Drew started listening in. And next thing you know, I see Drew is starting some of the habits I have, like having fat in his coffee in the morning. He likes ghee, so he does ghee in the morning. And what he told me what he used to do was he would go into work, grab like 3 little candy bars, then have another snack at like 10 in the morning, be famished by lunch, eat lunch. And he always brought lunch from home. So it's always, some kind of protein and veggie or whatever, but then felt the need to eat some more in the afternoon. And then dinner, almost as soon as we got home, he was just starving. So he started we do a little bit of fasting in the morning. That's kind of one of the things we also incorporated that's been helping the blood sugar. So we both fast until lunchtime. And he says by fasting until lunchtime, he's just ready for a good, healthy meal. In the afternoons, if he wants a snack, he says he either chooses nuts or maybe a sugar-free yogurt to snack on. And that usually lasts until he gets home. So he's noticed a lot of his snacking has dramatically reduced, and so has the purchasing of potato chips in our house, which is a good thing because I'm addicted to barbecue potato chips. So that has stopped. And then he'll tell you that he can get tighter on his belt now. So he's like 2 notches tighter. He doesn't weigh himself. Wow. Yeah, he doesn't weigh himself, but that's how he can tell. And so he's really happy with that. So his big thing is just really, what he says he does is really focus on the protein and getting healthy fats. And it's one of those things, whenever I've done any kind of a diet in the past, he always does whatever I do. But what is funny about this is I hear him now talking to his friends about it, talking to people that he thinks could really benefit from it and why the whys, and he listens in on, like I said, he listens in on Karen, and so he'll be like, maybe I should do this. I think I should start this, and then he did, and he's had.
So it's not you telling him what to do.
That's right, exactly. It's you telling him, which is way better than me telling him.
Right.
And he's much more, he's really into doing it now. So
because
great.
it's visible. Like, didn't you say that he had posted some picture on social media or
Oh,
something?
yeah.
And like friends were like, "What are you doing? You look great."
Yeah, actually, let me see if I can pull it up really quick. It's hilarious. He was like, I do yoga once a night, or once a week. He's going to kill me for doing this. I don't care. I do yoga once a night, and he thought he'd come in and and be like an instructor. So there he was that night, and that was the night with some of his friends were like, "What are you doing differently?" So don't tell him I did that, guys.
Well, one thing you said,
okay.
I mean, this is great because one thing we talk about is like, what do you measure? What are the metrics to see how you're doing? Because a lot of what we're doing is for some people in this group have type 2 diabetes and they're trying to back it out. And some people have pre-diabetes and they're trying to halt that and back that out. Some people are trying to prevent those things. And so it's the same thing. We can all work at the same time because we've got the monitor and it's much the same information and we just all apply it differently. But how we measure that, one of the great measurements of is this working is actually the waist circumference, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And mine's definitely shrunk. I took my measurements, so I've definitely lost weight. And I was telling Karen, and it's not like a weight loss advertisement. I think it's really because I've changed the way I'm eating. But I've lost 15 pounds since January, and it has been relatively effortless. And the fact that I haven't really been able to work out because of an injury, to me, says a lot about what I'm eating really matters. So like my waist has definitely gone down. I was just telling Karen, I have some new pants on. I had a bit of a muffin top when I first bought them, and I wasn't sure if I was going to keep them, but now they work. So it's definitely, shrinking everywhere and through the middle, which is that part that circumference that you look at that you're like, okay, that needs to be, I know for health that needs to be better, because I'm definitely an apple shape. That's where I tend to put my weight on, is all through here. So yeah.
And this, I mean, for people who don't understand why we talk about belly fat, I'm actually going to add a little thing here. We just published a blog on this. Why should I care about belly fat? There's different types of fat in our bodies. There's the subcutaneous fat, that sits under the skin, and there's essential fat, and it talks about this in the article. But the thing that we're after is called VAT, or visceral adipose tissue. And this is the fat that sits around our organs and our abdominal cavity, around our liver. And this is the fat that is associated with diabetes and heart disease and chronic health and inflammation. And it's also the first thing to go if you're going about this the right way, which is learning to regulate your blood sugar and keep your insulin levels regulated, because those chronically high insulin levels from, chronically snacking, eating a really carb-heavy diet, not that there's anything wrong with carbohydrates, but just learning how to be smart with them, helps us to reduce that visceral adipose tissue. And a great readout of that is the waist circumference. Because if people are exercising, doing strength training, they're putting on muscle, which weighs a lot. And so that scale isn't going to give you the feedback, right?
Yeah.
So I love it when people say, well, I don't know, I haven't lost any weight, but my belt is tighter. I'm like, that's a health improvement, isn't it?
Yeah. And it feels good. You're like, all right, this is good. This is all. And I remember when I first started doing it, you were telling me, I think if you start doing this and this, you're going to start noticing a difference. And it really did. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, I am kind of slimming down through there. So that was, and up here a little bit, but that's life.
Good for some of us. Not so good for some.
I'm like, I'll take it. But that definitely, it definitely has made a difference. Yeah. And I just want to say something too to people. Like when I remember walking in, I had this on, and my hairdresser's like, "What is that? Why?" Because she's in the health business
Oh,
too.
what?
She's
So you're talking about the CGM?
CGM, yeah.
On the
She's
back
like,
of your arm.
yeah. She's like, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, it's a CGM." She's like, "Do you have diabetes?" And I don't. And I think here's my commercial. I'll say, I spend money on a Fitbit to track my steps, my heart rate, my sleep patterns, and whatever else. And that CGM, I was willing to spend the cost per month to better my health. If I'm willing to buy something like this that's cost several $100s, why not spend the $80? I think is what I was charged for it, $80 a month for my CGM to figure out how to make myself healthy. So I'm trying to prevent diabetes and pre-diabetes. I don't want that at all. So
right, because we're both in our mid-50s. This is when
this stuff happens. Yeah.
So talking about getting that and spending the money, what was it like? Because I know some people are put off, and I didn't use a CGM in my practice for a long time because I thought, only people, with diabetes can access this technology and it's really expensive. But, it's different in different parts of the country. But how was it for you obtaining one?
It was, I think, like I said, I had gone in to my doctor and I had my cholesterol numbers were higher. My weight was higher. I was stable, but it was higher than what I like. And it was a pretty easy sell to her. I was able just to email her and say, "Hey, I'm working with a nutritionist. This is the program she's doing." And she was automatically like, "Sure." She just let me have it. And she was really excited to find out and I've had a couple of visits because of my injury. And she's been like, "So how did it go?" She's been really excited about it. So she was really easy. I think the main thing with her was making sure that she wrote the prescription correctly. Because initially she gave me glucose strips, which wasn't what I wanted. It was the CGM. So then we clarified it. And then here in North Carolina, I just got it at Walgreens. And I think it was $85 a month, which is for two. So it lasts me a month for $85.
Right. So to clarify, each one of these little sensors that usually people put them on their arms, some people put them on their chest. They last for 2 weeks, and each 2 weeks is about $40, sometimes more in some areas. But we discovered through that process that now we give out all the materials that we give out in the class have the prescription codes.
Yeah. And
so that letter goes right to the doctor.
Yeah. And I think the main thing that I saw in our groups and everything was people are like, "What diagnosis code for that? You don't have diabetes. How did you get one?" I said, "Well, luckily I talked with my doctor and she understood, but I also made sure, so I wasn't covered by my insurance. So I had to pay, and that $85 is what I paid out of pocket. And so I'm on TRICARE. So I'm a veteran military spouse. So I'm a beneficiary under TRICARE, and it wasn't covered under my plan. But I have spoken with other people, family members, who this program is actually covered through some other benefits they have through their healthcare. So it's really interesting to me. It seemed so new when we started it. Now I'm just seeing it everywhere, and people are talking about, will their insurance cover it or not? So.
Yeah, and so to clarify, because this is a confusing thing, it was for me, and it still is for a lot of people. There's a difference between getting a prescription for it and getting insurance to cover it. Because as my doctor likes to say, I can write an insurance for, saunas and massages, and your insurance isn't going to cover that necessarily. It's just a recommendation from your doctor, and they don't need insurance to cover it. And because this is, for a lot of people, a reasonably affordable investment for a short period of time, you don't need insurance coverage. And that has to be clarified because a lot of providers think, I can't do that. But I do. I've got, because before it used to be that you could only get insurance coverage for a continuous glucose monitor when you were using insulin 3 or more times a day. But now there's a lot of variability in private insurers. And I have someone who has diagnosis codes of obesity, prediabetes, and metabolic syndrome. And her private insurer covers 50% of her continuous glucose monitors. So, so it can help to have the diagnosis codes if you want to run it through your insurance. But yeah, it's not essential.
Well, and even the first time I picked it up at the pharmacy, they were like, your insurance isn't going to cover this. And I'm like, that's fine. I pay for it out of pocket. It's not a big deal. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to show your after data. So
okay, yeah.
We showed you the
hot mess weekend.
what things look like with Amy when she first started versus what things settled out to. So first, let's go back. I'll go back to what it looked like before. So this is kind of what it looked like before on the weekend, and this is what Amy. This is her last month of data when she was using it in February. It's just flat. And it doesn't have to be flat to be healthy, but you can see what we look for generally. Like people always ask, well, what are my goals? What am I going for here? We want the overnight to just be bottom feeding. You see midnight to 8 a.m. is just steady with very little fluctuation, ideally below 90. And I know it's hard to see the exact numbers, but that's what she's got going on. There's one with a little more variability. So let's use this. And then the other thing we want 100% time in range. 100 just staying, you want your maximum peak to be under 140. And there's reasons for this, because as soon as your blood sugar spikes, it kind of pushes you into, what some researchers call the survival mode, where you will start storing fat, creating uric acid, causing a lot of metabolic havoc in your body. So you want to stay under 140, and then you want to come back down to baseline between meals. As you can see, earlier she has good metabolic health. She was bouncing around at night a bit because she was eating late. And you see how her dinner time before, she would go high and, really bouncing around here, but not coming right down after meals. And now, here's one where she spiked up at, her 10 a.m., but then she's coming right down before she has another meal. And that's making sure that her blood, she's not bathing her body in high levels of insulin all day, which allows her to pivot between, using carbohydrates for fuel and using fat for fuel. And that's metabolic health, is having that metabolic flexibility of going back and forth between those two states of using carbs and blood sugar, especially when, let's stop sharing, especially for people who have insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes, and, fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. The way to back out of that is to, making sure we can have those valleys for a long enough time to start letting our liver offload some of that energy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And our visceral adipose tissue to offload some of that energy. It's good. Yeah. So is there anything else about your experience that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
So I kept one of my CGMs to use. I haven't used them all up yet, and I'm sure my doctor would write more. There's two things I think I'd want to do. One, I think I'd want to wear it during Christmas. So I have that little reminder of not to eat all the crap I love to eat at Christmas, all the candy and whatever.
For accountability.
Yeah.
You find it helpful for accountability.
It really was. It was almost like I had a little health coach on my arm, just that, because you're always, you're like, how did I do? You're measuring your what you did. And so that was that accountability, because remembering I needed to do that. But then I think the other thing I'd like to try, so I have an injury and it's really prevented me from working out. So I'd like to use it in a time where I'm in a position where I'm better able to work out on a more consistent basis, and just to see how the blood sugar, how it affects when I exercise, and how I might need to adjust my eating to account for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I think I remember both of us had that issue when we were exercising. because we found that when we ate something that was a little too spiky, a little too high glycemic before our workouts, we were going hypo. We were getting we were going low. For me, it was my smoothie, in theory, my super healthy smoothie before my workout. It was causing me to get hypoglycemic to the point where I was getting fuzzy and I had to lay down and dizzy and nauseous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, what would that look like? Like, how would I adjust, when I would eat, or even what I would eat before I would go do that. So that would be my next thing I want to do.
Do you feel like you have the tools to do that on your own?
Yes, because I know how it feels to not feel good if I've eaten incorrectly. So I definitely think I could do that, but I do like to be able to run it by you. Be like, oh my gosh, look what I just, I would screenshot stuff to Karen and be like, I am so sorry. One day I remember, do you remember when I did it? I'm like, Karen, I ate an apple and look what happened. And I had eaten everything. Like, I had my protein, I'd had my fat. And then I decided to have my apple at the end of my meal, and it just, woo! And I was like, oh, so apples for me may not be the right combination. But I think I had worked out that morning, and wasn't quite sure. So that's when I have a little something like that. But I definitely know, like, what we learn, all these different tools to manage our blood sugar. I pull a lot of those levers.
Our blood sugar mixing board, where we talk about the different.
Yeah, so I do incorporate a lot of those levers, like the ones that I already talked about that were really easy, like, fatten my milk and not eating so late at night. I mean, those are some of the easy ones that I pulled that I think really helped me bring my numbers down. So, getting a phone call?
I was getting a phone call. My son was messaging me. He'll be all right for a minute.
I've been waiting for mine. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, well, we'll wrap up, but no, it's good. I mean, that's the whole thing. This is a 4-week. I have a DIY thing, so because some people are DIYers and they've got a provider who can already help them, so they can just do the online thing that helps them. Get the prescription, get it set up, do all the tech, and then maybe they know how to do all the rest of the things, or they have a nutritionist to support them. There's
the cat. That's Junior.
But this 4-week program really is designed to try to get everything, kind of in the matrix thing of kind of uploading all that information to your brain. And then you can always, just like Amy says, she can just get another prescription from her doctor, hook herself up to the CGM, and then start monitoring and doing it on her own. She doesn't have to redo a class. She doesn't have to make another appointment. And that whenever she does that, really, it's $40 every time she needs to do that. And it's
But the one thing I just want to point out about the class is it was really helpful to see, because we have a private chat that we would use with the group, and we would share what was going on, and we learned from what everybody else was eating, but everybody's different. But you'd be like, oh, maybe I need to think about one of those things. And I shared recently with Karen, I can't remember which class it was, we were talking about drinking water and how important that was. And through this program, I started drinking water more, and amazingly, I wasn't waking up with headaches in the morning anymore. And I think it's because I was dehydrated. And I just but it never dawned on me until Karen was talking to someone else who mentioned it. And I'm like, I wake up with headaches every morning. I'm like, oh, okay. So
that's the beauty of a group program.
Yeah, the group, it was really, and everybody's fun. So we had a good time, but it was really, I think, I can't remember who it was, but some people just had great questions and you would just learn from what they were saying. So I recommend the group because I thought it was really beneficial to also hear what was going on with other people too. Yeah. And maybe I could, avoid what they did.
Yeah, it's kind of you learn exponentially faster because people ask questions that you would never even think of asking, and then you benefit from it.
Yeah. Like, I will advise you, don't eat a whole thing of Milk Duds and popcorn during Maverick, like I did this weekend. I would not want to see what my blood sugar level was this weekend, but I planned it. I ate a bunch of protein before I went, but it probably did nothing to really negate what I just did to myself. But I was at the movies. I had to.
Right. Because you know how to hack it. I mean, that's the idea is like you learn how to you mitigated it by having some protein, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, but
we'll never know.
The reclining chairs probably did not help. Oh, your milk.
All right. Oh, well, Amy, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me and to share your experience.
Yeah. And I mean, if any of my friends are watching, thank you for watching. But if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to tell you more about my experience. But it's just one of those things I really do recommend. Like I said, I invest in a Fitbit. Why not take a couple months and invest in a CGM to figure out what's going on the inside of me too? So I think it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. All right.
So when's your next Hack Your Blood Sugar, Karen?
The registration is actually going to open this Friday. So we're going to start the week of July 11th.
Very cool.
The week of July 11th is the next one. So I'm still sending people to the waiting list because, of course, if you're on the waiting list, you get access to the buy one, get one free special.
Yeah.
And they just, So people are interested. You can reach out and contact me here, and and then I'll get you on the waiting list for that. And I'd love to have you. And remember, because like Amy was talking about how there's a private feed, some people can't make all of the sessions, and all the sessions are recorded. That's what we do now. We record all the sessions, and there's a private HIPAA compliant platform for the whole thing. And some people can't make as many of the classes. And so what they do is they just screenshot their data and post it to the feed. And the feed is just like, Facebook, but private. And I can comment on it, and other people can comment on it. And I've had people, I think you remember Joe in our class, he never made any of the sessions. And now I always schedule it so people can make at least one a week. He took part entirely through the feed and really made the most out of the class. Yeah.
Well, cool.
All right.
Well, bye.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day. Yeah.
Thank Drew for all the the photos.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So thanks for joining us today. Again, if you want to know more, I will link in the comments below. How do you get on the waiting list for this? But otherwise, you can always reach out. I always have a place where you can book a free call with me to actually talk to a human and ask questions, because sometimes people do better working one-on-one. Some people want to just do an e-course for the tech, and some people, want to do a group program. But thanks for joining us, and be sure to share this with people you think might be interested and could benefit from it. All right.